Hi, everybody. I thought I'd spend a few minutes talking about a product that I recently became sort of familiar with. It's a Duo's product, Duo's MFA, and its integration to Microsoft products, specifically Office 365 or Entra ID. Remember, Entra ID is the new term or the new term for Azure AD. So again, I'm just going to try and call it Entra ID, but I may forget. Who knows? So anyway, Duo is one of the providers like Okta, Auth, CyberArk, that provides a lot of authentication services. Some are, full IDP services, meaning, when I go to, let's say we integrate it with Office 365, I go to my mailbox, I hit Exchange, Exchange goes to Entra ID, Entra ID says, hey, someone else is responsible for authenticating this user, and it gives me a redirect behind the scenes to Duo or CyberArk or whatever. I authenticate over there using maybe their MFA, their security policies, not Entra's. They give me a token. I present that token to Entra ID, and Entra ID says, yes, this token is properly signed. It says that you are who you say you are. My account, of course, is linked back to Entra account, and then Entra ID gives me a token that then Exchange will accept. So you can do that, and there's some benefits to doing that with third parties, or you can just use some other products that a company like Duo might sell. So let's talk about a couple of those, because Duo does have a few of those things. They do have the full single sign-on integration with Entra ID. I think they're currently called, I'll open up their website in a second, Office 365 SSO. I'm sure they'll change that name. They've been changing names, trying to keep up with Microsoft's name changes, which is a never-ending battle with Microsoft. They're not satisfied. Every 3 years, for sure, things need a new name. Sometimes they need 3 names during those 3 years, and then they make up another name. So I'm sure Duo is going to modify that. So we'll take I'll take a brief look at that. I haven't set that up in my environment. Instead, I went for another interesting product that Duo has. Duo has a product that also integrates with Entra ID, but just for MFA. And it doesn't redirect me over to Duo for Duo policies to authenticate over there in a single sign-on way. What it does is it uses what's called a custom control in Entra ID, a custom control for conditional access. And this custom control, once I create it, I can attach it to a Entra ID conditional access policy, and then I can choose it in the actions part of the access part of conditional access, and I'll show you that. Instead of MFA, which would be Microsoft's MFA system, I can choose the Duo MFA. So all it would do is go to Duo and make sure that I MFA'd properly. It wouldn't be authenticating me over there. Wouldn't be using policies in Duo. Just it does this one little thing. So I'm going to open up the a website. I'll make my picture a little smaller. Went over to the left that time. Again, I use Filmora to do my videos. It's fairly inexpensive, not like crazy expensive like some of the other big boys. And I can do stuff like this, picture in picture, and do editing, upload it to whatever the sites are. Normally, I just save it to my hard drive, so I have a copy of my videos, because I don't trust anybody to keep an only copy of my video. So I have drive space locally that I keep everything on. Then I upload it from there. I know it's maybe a little bit extra step, but I feel better doing that. So this is the Duo Admin Center. I have a Duo account right now. You can see I have a couple of users with my test domain. I'm sorry, my test tenant, my Entra ID tenant, Beth here in and Jerry. Normally, what we would end up doing, no matter which Duo product you use, is you would set up a directory sync over here on the left, and it would be preferably or probably it would be Active Directory sync, but you can also do Entra sync. I didn't set that up because I'm just doing a quick test of things, and I just had 2 users. But of course, you would set that up, right? In an actual production environment, you don't want to be manually creating all these users, manually creating a user in Entra and then manually creating one in Duo every single time a user showed up, and then going and deleting them as well. That's a big pain in the neck. So normally I would do that, but you don't have to do that. You can just create these users manually, and as long as they have the same UPN, it'll work just fine. So I have these 2 users. Oops, I clicked on add a user that I can use. So you can see one of them hasn't ever authenticated. The other one just authenticated today. So in addition to that, I have this little part here, this node called Applications. This is where you set things up in Duo. And you can see I have 3 things in here. The first one I have called, and these are my names on the left, Entra Conditional Access. Duo calls this, this is the Duo type, Microsoft Azure Active Directory. I imagine they're going to change that to Entra ID. I wish they'd put conditional access in there because that's really what it's used for. You'll notice also that I have a couple of other things that I'll show you using on-premise RDS or RDP in the form of either the actual the session server, or in this case you can see a gateway. These are 2 different products that Duo has. We'll talk about those a little bit more in a second. They also have a web app product as well. So you can hit it from 3 different ways if you want to. You got your choice. And the reason I got into having to look at Duo is I did have a customer that was currently using this for their RDS environment, and we were going to switch some stuff around, and everyone already was used to it. They were also using it in the cloud for that conditional access for all their users, and so I decided probably best to stick with that for a little while. So I had to get familiar with how it worked and how they were actually using it. It is a bit confusing. All right, so the way you do all this, that they have pretty good documentation. You tell it that you want to protect an app. You tell it the type of app you want to protect. You can search for the apps here. In fact, if I search for Office 365, you can see here's Office 365 or Microsoft 365. This is the SSO. This is the full IDP. We're transferring, the identity provider, security policies, and all that over to Duo setup. The second one here is the one that I have set up. It just does this 2FA, the Duo-based MFA. That's all. A much, much smaller, less intrusive method. RDP is in here. A bunch of other apps are in here, just like everybody. Everybody has a bunch of apps, or they're not going to sell their products. So I have set 2 of those up. So when you go to set those up, for the RDP, there was a download. You download, install it on your RDS server or on your gateway server or your web app server. So there's pretty good documentation. You can see there's a documentation link on the right for all of these. So it's pretty good. I did have a good time with this. I'm going to switch over to my remote remote desktop environment, or my Hyper-V environment, I should say. Most of you have seen this. I have a couple of servers I'm using, an RDS server, a couple RDS servers, a session host server here, the RDS gateway. I'll show you those in a second, and how that fits in with Duo. I got a domain controller running, a couple of other things, including a Windows 11 computer. I'm going to get onto that one, and that one, I'm actually going to sign into the web so we can see how Office 365 works with Duo. And you can see here it's popping me up already. So this is, I have Jerry here on my device. I'll show you that again. I'm going to log off as Jerry. And then we'll, if I can remember how to log off. I should ask everybody here how to log off of, well, I know how to log off, but log off of all of my sessions. It's in a couple of places. Actually, no, it's here. Sign out everywhere. So I'm going to click on sign out everywhere just to make sure. Jerry's not signed in. Now, you can see it signed him out of that as well. All right, so I'm going to go to office.com and I'll sign in as Jerry. And here you can see a Duo prompt comes up, asks me to sign in. I could set it up to do the push or a number code. This is just one of Duo's options. So you can see it actually used Duo for the MFA for Office 365. So let's see how that and why that works behind the scenes. Here is the admin center, the Entra ID admin center actually, and I've gotten into conditional access policies here. I'll show you the policy and then I'll show you how we see the Duo thing in the policy. So as most of you have seen this before, I got a bunch of conditional access policies. I'll leave them around for demo purposes. Here's my Duo MFA one right here that I've set up. It's a typical policy. I think I just have Jerry included here. I have Office 365 as the app included. No extra conditions. And I have one grant control. I'll click on that. I'll move me out of the way here. You see down here at the bottom, require Duo MFA. How'd that get there? Normally we click on this require multi-factor authentication. That's Entra's MFA. If you install this, by the way, never click on them both. Choose one or the other. It's not supported to have them both in there. It'll just cause you a heartache. So require Duo MFA. How'd that get there? Well, a little while back, Microsoft put something into conditional access policies called custom controls. In fact, you can still see it's in preview. So I'm going to click on custom controls, and here's the require Duo MFA. Now, this is part of the setup. What you'll get when you're doing the setup from Duo is it'll generate a JSON file text for you. Just copy that text and paste it straight into here, and here it is. That is what does it. Just paste it in there. Boom. It's available from there on in any one of your policies. So you go to any one of your policies, you'll see it down there at the bottom and you can check it. So it's a pretty neat trick, and that's all it does is the MFA part. There's no, SAML, there's no SSO, OAuth, nothing. There's no transfer of tokens going back and forth. It just does this one thing. Instead of using the Microsoft MFA system, it uses the Duo MFA system. That's it. Okay, that's it. All right, so not too tough to set that up. We just got to make sure users are in Duo, that they've signed up, they have their methods, which they would have to do the first time if they didn't have methods. As with all systems, they got a way to deal with that. So I got to have that set up. I have to protect the Azure Active Directory app, as you saw in the other screen. Here, I'll show it to you again. That's this app right here. I've named it Enter Conditional Access, but the type, this is the Duo type, is Azure Active Directory. So I created that as all part of that process, and it gives me that JSON file. I put it in, and everything works great. So I've had some good success with that. I like it. All right. So the things that brought me to this product in the first place, the RDP. So why would you do this in Duo as opposed to Microsoft? Well, the obvious answer is because Microsoft doesn't have an on-premise MFA anymore. They got rid of the MFA server. They actually do, however, have a couple of ways to do what we're trying to do here. One way is with authentication, or I'm sorry, application proxy, Entra ID app proxy. We had a video on that, and its newer counterpart, the global access and private access sub-component that is in public preview at this time. It's now January 2024. So the Entra ID application proxy, you can use that with RDS, but only if you're doing the web apps, HTTP, because that's what the web app proxy, that's what the Entra ID proxy uses. So you can do it that, and you've been able to do that for a long while now, several years. Newer is Microsoft's global access umbrella, which has two components. One is the internet access and going outbound, and the other one is inbound access. They call that private access from the internet into on-premise. When you use that product, it expands the capabilities, amongst other things, it expands the capabilities of the Entra ID application proxy so that you can connect to any type of app, not just web-based. You can do RDP, right, using 3389. You can connect to 445. You can connect to file shares, whatever, FTP, whatever you like. You do have to install the client onto the PCs. They have to be Entra joined or hybrid joined. So there are some caveats to get this functionality, and it is still in public preview. But that's great, and that will work completely. It's all Entra ID driven, so you get your MFA up there. So you don't necessarily need the Duo anymore, but I still like the Duo product. I like how it works. It's pretty easy to install. So I'll show you how this works. So you can say I have the two here, RD Gateway and Microsoft RDP. I called it this. They just call it Microsoft RDP. So and again, the documentation on this stuff is great. I'm going to switch over back to my remote desktop, my Hyper-V machine. I'm going to go to my RDS session host machine. This machine is a session host. Now, this could be you can set this up the full RDS setup in the server manager, or you just do a remote connection from remote desktop for your two administrative connections. It works the exact same way. The reason it works the exact same way is that when you install it, and I'm going to get into add and remove programs here. This is what you install. If you can't quite read that, it says Duo Authentication for Windows Logon. Doesn't say RDP or RDS on it, or session host or anything like that. That's because it's not specific to the RDS or remote desktop. What this does is it actually installs a credential provider in Windows. Credential providers are ways for you to provide your credentials. There's a password credential provider. There's a smart card. There's a few others as well. So it installs a credential provider and actually can disable all the other credential providers. So this is the only one that works. That's an option. So because in RDS, RDP, you're actually logging onto Windows, right? So it makes sense that it does that. Gives you another advantage, though, and I do have one other customer that actually uses it for this other purpose. You can install this not only on servers, but on workstations, the same exact product. And you can protect those workstations from what, you ask? Well, here's the cool thing you can do. You can actually force an MFA just to get onto the desktop, whether that desktop is joined, to anything or not, because you're installing it right onto the desktop. And also, you can do an offline MFA. So if you're on a train, somewhere and you still want people to do MFA, they can't get to the internet, it actually still works. It's a pretty cool feature. In addition to that, you can also have it just do MFA for elevations, not direct logons, but just for elevation. So it's a versatile product. In addition to all that, you can use it for RDP. So I have it installed on my RDS server. I'm going to go back to my Windows machine here, and you notice I do have a remote host thingy here on the desktop. I'm going to edit that so you can take a look at it. I'm going to connect to this machine called RDS-SH. That's that server I was just on. And before I do that, I'll show you under Connect from Anywhere. It is using an RDS gateway. I'm going to tell it not to do that. Let's pretend that that's not there. We're just connecting straight to this server. So I'll click on Connect. And I'm going to use Jerry again. Jerry's one of my only users in Duo. Let's connect me here. You'll see the log on screen for a second, and boom, I get the Duo push up, and I just got a Duo push on my phone. That's how it's configured to do the push. I just answered the push, and now it's all good. And I notice my face isn't on my video anymore, which is very annoying. Is it behind the Hyper-V? Oh, it is behind the Hyper-V. Okay, well, I went like this and showed my phone and noticed that I wasn't doing anything, but it did prompt me. So now I'm into my RDP session. And I guess it's going to hide me if I enter full screen. Oh, well. But you can see I got in. You can see the ribbon across the top with just the the one RDP push. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate the gateway, and let's see. I don't want to go all the way to turning off Duo on the session host machine, so I'll just do them both because it will do them both. So I'm going to go to advanced here. I'm going to go into settings. Okay, and it reverted back to using that. So I'm going to click on OK. Now I'm going to click on Connect. And since I have that gateway server there, it's going to connect me to the gateway first. And when you connect to a gateway, you got to authenticate to that. And if you set up your gateway correctly, then it'll automatically use those credentials to connect you to the session host machine. But that's just the Microsoft part. The Duo part, Duo is going to do its own thing. So let me type in Jerry's stuff here. Oops. Typing too fast. All right. Now it's connecting. I got a Duo thing on the bottom. I don't know if you can see that. It's not showing me again. Hold on a second. Okay. I got a Duo thing. See that? Even though it's not telling me on the screen. Yep, that's just how it works. It doesn't tell you on the screen. It only gives you the prompt. That's how the gateway product works. That took too long. I'll do that again. But it doesn't show it to you on the screen. It just shows it to you on the phone. It's a little bit weird. You got to tell your users that. But you remember when I connected to the session host, it did show it to me on the screen, and it will still actually do that. I'll do this again, and you're not going to see me because well, let me see here. Maybe I can rearrange this so you can see both me and this window. Yeah, I just won't make it so big. Okay, good enough. All right, let's try that again. So I'll click on Connect. I'll type my password in here. It was already connected to the gateway. So now it just went right to the session host. My connection was lost. Am I still on this stupid session host? Okay, hold on a second. I'm getting all discombobulated. Let me disconnect from this session. I'm going to totally sign out. Let's start that again. Zip, 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 zip. Forget everything that just happened. All right, let's edit this. Didn't want that remote desktop. Clicked on the wrong edit. So I'm going to go to my RDS and I'm going to make sure my gateway is configured. Yep, it is. And you can see use my RD gateway credentials from the remote computer. That's just telling Microsoft RDS, don't prompt me twice. But again, Duo will prompt me twice. Once for the gateway, once for the RDS server because I got them both turned on. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to click on connect, type in my password. It just prompted me. You can see that. For the gateway, I'm going to accept that. Now it's connecting me to the session host. Now I get a second prompt, and I will approve that. But that one I can see on the screen, right? So, you wouldn't set this up like this normally. Either the gateway or the session host. If you have more than one gateway, if you're using Connection Broker to balance the load, for sure you want to put it on the gateway. But they also have another product. You can put it on the web app server as well. So you have a couple of choices. I didn't set up the web app one, so I'm not going to show you that. So cool product. There's still uses for it. It's got great documentation, a lot of third-party SSO SAML ready apps to go. You got this plugin you can use it for, so you don't have to go full SSO with Office 365. So it's still very useful, not too expensive. And that's pretty much it. So that's my quick foray into Duo MFA with Microsoft products. Oh, they do have one more RDS method you can use. They have a plugin for, I think, the MPS server to do a radius thing as well. That was a little weird when I looked at that one. I didn't really mess with it. But it's another option. All right, everybody, that's it. I'll talk to you next time, and stay safe out there.